Do you know that 80% of the antibiotics produced in the world today are fed to animals in our food chain?
Antibiotics in animals threaten human health.
Any person who's milking a cow, the goal is to get as much milk as fast as possible. Always the udder is injured. There's always pus in the milk. Cannot get a glass of milk without pus.
Oh.
How much pus? I've even seen them milking cows and seeing pus and blood falling in the milk. But once you stir it up, you can't see it anymore. ICMR study on pesticides in milk found pesticide called HCH. 570 times the permissible levels of pesticide in milk.
My God.
They are actually feeding on garbage dumps. Their stomachs get clogged with plastic. How mother's milk has so many pesticides in it.
Up till what age should I consume cow's milk, if at all I should?
You should never consume cow's
Even
milk.
a child?
One of the causes of type 1 diabetes is cow's milk given at a too early an age.
So all oils are problematic and may potentially lead to diabetes.
Absolutely. The oil doesn't have any fiber, so you can overeat, so you can put on weight. There's no difference in the amount of fat in refined oil and cold pressed oil. Both are 100% fat. In refined oil, they use solvents, chemical solvents, to extract the final fat out of the seed. So the solvents are left in the oil and that makes it more harmful.
Dr Nandita Shah, a Nari Shakti Puraskar awardee from the President of India, a pioneer of holistic health, was instrumental in starting the vegan movement in India. Qualified as a homeopathic doctor who cured her own paralysis through diet and lifestyle, she focuses on plant-based nutrition to cure diseases without any medication.
You can make samosas, you can do tadka, you can fry onions, you can do whatever you like without oil. We're the only species that sprays our food with poison, pesticides, so that other animals don't eat it, and then we eat it.
Yes.
I mean, what's that? We shouldn't be under the delusion that you can peel the vegetable and the pesticide is gone. Even if you spray pesticide at the bottom of a coconut tree, you would get pesticide in the water of the coconut above. Farmers who spray pesticides know this. Like, they will have their own little patch where they grow food for themselves. Of course, they don't eat the food that they are spraying on. Whole world is commercial now. If you want to know what to eat and what not to eat, take a look at everything that's advertised and don't eat that. Because nobody's going to advertise what is already in our instincts. Vaccinations are inherently dangerous because they contain mercury. Even the COVID vaccine had it written, what are the side effects of COVID vaccine. How much sugarcane can a diabetic have?
I don't think they can.
By nature or God, they can have as much as they like.
Oh.
How much can a diabetic have of fruit? As much as they want.
Diabetics can have bananas?
And mangoes. Sugar is not the cause of diabetes in most cases. It's insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is caused by fat. All animal products are full of fat. Like boiled milk, people who say you should have camel's milk for diabetes, and it's being sold as such. I mean, please give me a break.
What is the problem with eggs?
Eggs has one of the highest packages of cholesterol possible.
What foods or what plant can help us reverse cancer?
Normal cells can survive in an alkaline medium, but cancer cells thrive in even more acidic medium. So we are creating acidity in our body. And how do we create acidity? Tea, coffee, colas, sugar, alcohol, vinegar, all the preservatives are acids. Medicines are acid.
The water we drink?
Yeah, unfortunately, because it's chlorinated.
How do we prevent that?
You can make all your water remineralized before drinking by, say, you squeeze in lemon juice.
Vegetarian food consumption is not going to give me enough protein A, and number 2, my vitamin B12 levels will always be low if I'm on a vegetarian and more so on a vegan diet.
So first of all, greens are full of protein, beans are full of protein. We will not be short of protein on a plant-based diet. Vitamin B12, on the other hand, levels of vitamin B12 have dropped considerably. since the mobile phones and mobile phone towers and microwaves are being used.
What are the foods that we can take to increase our B12 or maintain our B12?
You could take.
What should my frequency of meals be if I have to reverse a particular disease?
Well, fasting is a great way to reverse diseases.
We should not use
never
sunscreen?
use sunscreen. Sunscreens can be carcinogenic. If slaughterhouses had windows, everyone would be vegetarian.
What happens in those slaughterhouses?
It's like the Holocaust. What the Nazis did to human beings is what we are doing to animals in a slaughterhouse. They pee and shit involuntarily there, and so the meat is also mixed with feces and blood and urine and everything.
An Amazon #1 best-selling author and the founder of SHARAN, an NGO devoted to disease reversal through food. It is our honor to have with us on today's health episode of the Body to Being podcast, Dr. Nandita Shah.
I suffered in 1997 from a disease called Guillain-Barré. It's an acute autoimmune disease where you become completely paralyzed. I was so paralyzed.
Did you know that 70% of the diseases today are chronic in nature? Chronic means lifestyle related. Now, what if I told you that these 70% of diseases can be cured or reversed just through diet? No medications, just diet. So, whether you're looking to cure a particular disease or just a generic health plan, then this podcast is for you. My guest today is a pioneer of healthcare in the country who has cured innumerable people of their diseases and helps people prevent diseases in the future. If you haven't already, I'd be very grateful if you can subscribe to the channel and please do watch the video till the end.
Dr. Nandita Shah, Namaskaram. Thank you for gracing the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor to be with you.
I think about 70% of the diseases today are lifestyle related or chronic in nature, which also means that they can be reversed. So, what are those lifestyle diseases that can be reversed or cured just through diet?
I wouldn't say just through diet, but I would say diet plus lifestyle. So many diseases can be reversed, like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancers, many of them, and not every one of them, but many autoimmune diseases as well. Some cases of chronic kidney disease can be reversed, and other cases their progress can be stopped so that they don't need to go in for dialysis and kidney transplant. So many cases of fatty liver and those kind of diseases. Then weight gain. I mean, obesity is the culprit for so many things, and a whole food plant-based diet that we are recommending automatically helps with weight loss because first of all, we're cutting out fat. Second of all, we're increasing fiber. So that helps to usher out fat and is a filler and has no calories. And the third is we're not consuming dairy, which has growth hormones. So automatically, if someone goes on a whole food plant-based diet, they'll lose weight.
And the other diseases you mentioned.
And then, of course, constipation and gut problems. One of the causes of leaky gut, which is the mother of so many diseases, is foreign proteins that our body is not designed to consume. So there's so much that we can do for so many things: joint pains, arthritis, premature aging, premature puberty, hormonal problems. There's so many hormonal problems. I would say for almost any disease, it's worth doing this because it's always worth, bringing your health to the best level possible.
So, when all of these diseases, 70% of the diseases are curable just through diet, why are we sold on medications?
Because right now we are living in a commercial world. In ancient China, doctors were paid according to the number of days their patients were well. Today, doctors are being paid when their patients are sick. There is no money in health. The money is in disease. So we have to recognize that it's not in anyone's interest for everyone to be well. It's in everyone's interest, except the patient's, for people to have a disease that stays lifelong.
Correct.
Because then they'll be buying medicines, they will be going to doctors, and they will have procedures.
I want to start by asking you about diabetes because we are the diabetes capital of the world. And if I have to go by statistics, 1 out of every 10 individuals are diabetic. Why do you think that is the case, ma'am?
So first of all, I have to say I'm not curing anybody. They are curing themselves and I'm only guiding them. We all know how to heal ourselves. We're just not in touch with that. Just because from the time we're born, like we're even born in hospitals. So from the time we're born, we're in touch with the medical industry. And we think that with every little problem, we should go to doctors and get their advice. But truly, if we learn to listen to our body can guide us to heal. And I'm just working with people who haven't learned to listen to their body, guiding them to listen to their body. And those who listen, they always get the results.
You talked about healing the body. How does the body heal itself naturally?
You know, the body's always working to heal.
Okay.
And when it produces symptoms, symptoms are the only language which the body can talk in order to let us know that something we're doing is wrong. And if we understand those symptoms, then automatically we'll be put on the right path. I can give you an example from my own life. Like, I suffered in 1997 from a disease called Guillain-Barré. It's an acute autoimmune disease where you become completely paralyzed. I was so paralyzed that I couldn't even turn in my bed. And all my friends are doctors, and I was living in Mumbai at that time. And my friends told me, just go to hospital. I did go to the hospital to get a diagnosis, but I already knew the diagnosis. But I went to confirm it, and the neurologist said that you should get admitted in the ICU. And I knew that I couldn't do that because I didn't want to take the immunoglobulins or the steroids that they would be giving me for that. That was the treatment at that time, you know. And so I decided to come home. And later on, I moved to my father's house because I couldn't even move. You know, it was a ongoing paralysis. So I had someone looking after me like during the day and night to turn me or for bodily functions or to feed me. When I got well, I was talking to one of my friends who's also a homeopath and a psychotherapist. She said to me that let's sit down and just discuss this and think about what should be the next steps. She said to me, what does it mean if you're paralyzed? We came to the conclusion that paralysis means the body is saying stop because it put all activity to a stop. And so what I realized is that I was working too hard. At that time, I had a full clinic, plus I was teaching all over the world. My body was just saying, stop it. So after I got well, that was actually what pushed me to Auroville, where I live now. I moved to Auroville just to be in nature and to slow down. Of course, things picked up there too, but you know, initially it was slowing down and looking more after myself. And that's really what everyone needs to learn to do, because sometimes we're so busy working. I see patients like that. They're not thinking about their body. We always put the right fuel in our cars, but we don't think about what we're doing with ourselves, right? So we really need to start listening to our bodies. Every symptom has a meaning. And if you take a medicine is like saying shut up to the body. It took me a while to realize this as well, that medicines never cure. Like whatever medicine you can think of, whether it's for headaches or for fever, it's just temporarily removing symptoms. And some people think that antibiotics cure. But the only thing an antibiotic can do is kill bacteria.
The good and the bad ones.
The good and the bad, of course. And so when it kills the good, it's a little bit detrimental. When it kills the bad, it can be a temporary relief. But, you know, bacteria are entering our system every single moment of every single day. When bacteria manage to take some control on our system, our body is designed to heal. Our body is going to produce antibodies against that bacteria. But before it can do that, if we take an antibiotic, then we will be as prone to the next infection as before. I saw that in my practice because I saw that, you know, there were children who had taken antibiotics month after month after month for tonsillitis, ear infections or anything else, and they were still not well because no medicine cures, you know. Medicines only remove symptoms. It took me so long to realize this because we are taught that when we are sick, we need to take medicines.
When it comes to modern medicine, especially in the case of diabetes, you know, we are told that most of the diabetes is incurable and you have to be on lifelong medications, which is not the case because alternative systems of medicine, such as Ayurveda, that I know of a little bit, champions for the fact that 80% of the diabetes is curable, and then there could be 15-20% which is not curable. But that's not the understanding that modern medicine gives us. And I don't know of any individual who's taken allopathic diabetic pill and has cured themselves.
True. Allopathy or any system of medicine understands that all these diseases are lifestyle diseases. Your lifestyle is causing the disease, and shifting the lifestyle could potentially reverse the
Yeah.
disease. But, we are not thinking, because when we have a problem, we go to the same doctor for diabetes as everyone else did. We know very well that nobody got cured with that, but we're going there anyway. And that's just because we are conditioned. We don't realize it, but we're herd animals. We do what everyone else does. If we were to step back and think, hey, nobody got cured by taking medicines, and nobody even got cured by cutting out sugar or carbohydrates or fruits or potatoes. Why is that? The minute we start asking the questions why, the answers will come, because the answers are kind of within us. And now, with Google and with so many books and things, you can always find the answer if you're ready to ask the question. But the problem is that most of us don't even ask the question.
I want to start with diabetes. And for the viewers, if you can explain to us in simple words, what is diabetes and what causes diabetes?
Every single cell in our body requires to be nourished and given oxygen at every moment of the day.
Okay.
And the nourishment is sugar. Sugar is the food for energy. In order to usher the sugar that we consume, whenever we consume something, it's broken down into simplest sugars, glucose, which can go into the cells and provide it with energy to burn. We even our body temperature is because there's fueling all the time of our bodies so that the body can maintain the temperature. The minute that stops, we die, right? In order to usher the sugar into a cell, there's insulin. When we eat something, our blood sugar goes up, and there's a message from blood to the brain to send a message to the pancreas to produce insulin. And the insulin is produced in exactly the right proportion to the amount of sugar in the blood, so that the insulin works like a key. It goes to the insulin receptors on every cell. It opens the door so that the glucose can go inside, and the glucose is used as energy. Now, what happens in diabetes? Most of the cases of diabetes are type 2 diabetes. When we go to the doctor tells us cut down sugar, cut down carbohydrates, and we don't get well because sugar is not the cause of diabetes. As I told you, we need sugar. The cause of diabetes is not even lack of insulin in most cases. It's insulin resistance. That means the insulin is there in the bloodstream. It tries to open it's like a key, it tries to open the lock to let the sugar in, but it can't because the lock is blocked. Imagine if you have a door with a keyhole and you put bubble gum in that keyhole. That's what it's like. And what is that bubble gum in our body? It's fat. You don't need to be fat. You can even be thin. But if you have fat in the muscle cells, the fat blocks the insulin from working. That's the number one cause. There's another cause.
So people who have excessive fat will be predisposed to diabetes.
Absolutely.
Okay, but there are so many people who are thin. Like my father, he does not have much fat, but he's a diabetic.
Correct. But he has an intake of fat.
Correct.
And that fat is in the muscle cell. So it may not be all over the body, but it's in the muscle cell causing insulin resistance. That's if he has type 2 diabetes. There's also type 1 diabetes where the pancreas is not producing insulin. And there's something in between where, we were able to produce insulin. And nowadays we are given medicines for diabetes, which force the pancreas to produce more insulin. And so it causes burnout of the pancreas.
Uh-huh.
There are many patients like that. They have diabetes for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
And they go to the doctor, and usually the doctor will start them off on simple medication like metformin.
Yeah.
And after some time, metformin doesn't work because nobody tells them what they need to change. And then the doctor says, okay, I'm going to change your medicine. Patient doesn't realize what's happening. He thinks that just the medicine is being changed, but it's not. Nowadays, the medicines are made so that there are two medications in one tablet. So you're given a new tablet, but it has two medications.
Combination.
Combination.
Okay.
And then sometimes there are three medications in one. And there are different doses. So every time you go to the doctor, actually your medications are increasing.
Oh.
But the doctor usually tells you, I'm changing your medicine.
Or they'll say the quantity of metformin is reducing, but that's not actually the case because the other medications
No, they
are
may
increasing.
stop metformin, but
Yeah.
metformin is not such a dangerous drug. I mean, every drug has its side effects. Metformin also has its side effects. But the real dangerous drugs are the ones that force the pancreas to produce more insulin, then they lead to burnout. You know, medicines are not always bad. Even antibiotics can be useful, or chemotherapy can be useful sometimes and can be harmful at other times.
Yeah.
And same with drugs for diabetes, because if your blood sugar is high consistently, it can cause so many changes in the arteries, which can lead to so many other problems. And, you know, diabetes is seemingly innocuous because you can take a medicine and you can
Yeah.
continue your life, but it has so many complications. And some of them are not that innocuous, like when you lose your eyesight or you lose a limb due to gangrene, or, you know, with diabetes, you can have silent heart attacks. That means you've had a heart attack, but because of the neuropathy, you don't even feel it. So you didn't know you had a heart attack. Of course, it causes, you know, problems with cardiovascular system. So, I mean, it can affect every single system of your body, which is why it's really important to keep the blood sugar in relative control. And I was telling you what is diabetes. So if your whole system isn't working, in fact, your body always tries to make it work by producing more insulin. But in the end, if your whole system doesn't work because of insulin resistance. Remember, insulin resistance is caused by fat. And there's one more thing that causes insulin resistance. There's something called insulin-like growth hormone, which is found in dairy. It's a
Oh.
growth hormone, but it looks like insulin. So now it's like putting the wrong key in the lock. What happens when you put the wrong key in the lock? You put the key in. Now you can't turn it. You cannot open the door, but you can't even take the key out. Have you seen that
Yeah, yes.
kind of thing?
Yes.
So that also causes insulin resistance because it blocks the insulin receptors, right? So when we have more sugar in the blood where it shouldn't be and not enough sugar in the cells where it's needed, what do you feel? Lack of energy. Then because it's in the blood and the body is going to try to throw it out, you feel more thirst and you find yourself urinating more to throw it out. And these are the three typical symptoms. And of course, sometimes diabetes is found because you have your injuries are not healing, or, whenever the sugar levels are high, then the bacteria multiply. So it's easy to get boils and things that don't heal for a long time. And whenever something's not healing, we should also check for diabetes.
Learn the secret diet of the yogis by joining our upcoming online yogic food program. All the details are in the description below. Alternatively, you can also contact +91 6366 852 888.
So you talked about fats and you talked about dairy. Now, what are the kind of fats that can cause diabetes?
Any fat. Fat is one of the biggest causes of diabetes, right? And where does the fat come from? It can come from oil, ghee, butter. Remember, our consumption of fried foods has gone up significantly.
Yes.
And the price of oil has relatively gone down compared to many years ago, right?
Correct.
And since oil is a preservative, all the packaged foods that you buy, most of them contain fat of some kind. But also all animal products are full of fat. Like boiled milk, fat on top, boiled fish, chicken or meat, fat on top. Now it's very interesting. We need fat to some extent, but plants always have fat, some more, some less. We already know that foods like peanuts or sesame or coconut or sunflower seeds or flax seeds or avocado, they all have fat, right? But the interesting thing is, boil any of them, you will not get fat on top.
Oh.
Why? Because only plants have fiber, and the fiber holds on to the fat and it doesn't let it go straight into the bloodstream.
So all oils are problematic and may potentially lead to diabetes and can be very detrimental to a diabetic?
Absolutely. We think that sugar is bad.
Yes.
Sugar is bad, no
Yes,
doubt.
yes.
Because sugar is also, like oil, an artificial refined substance. But Sugar has 4 calories per gram. So do proteins, 4 calories per gram. But fats have 9 calories per gram in order to use it as energy. But we have to recognize that when we eat plants in the whole form, we will never have too much fat because the fiber not only holds on to the fat even in our body and so it doesn't go straight into the bloodstream, but the fiber protects us from overeating. Like, for example, if you have a handful of peanuts, and if you eat them, you will be full.
Yes.
But if you have that same handful of peanuts and you extract oil out of it, you will get 2 tablespoons of oil. You could fry a vadai in it.
Correct.
And one vadai will not fill you up, but now you have all the fat, and that fat can go into the bloodstream and cause problems, not just diabetes. The main cause of most lifestyle diseases is fat.
Okay.
Like give blood thinners to everyone without telling them that, hey, the cause of your thickening blood is fat. So cut down the fat. And the reason they don't tell this is because they themselves are eating fat. They don't know how to cook with fat. Now we are all conditioned to cook with fat.
Yes.
But you have to understand that this is only since the industrial age that we're making so much oil. How could we make oil without having machines to extract oil? Now, so we teach people how to cook food without any oil. And you will be surprised that you can make everything, all the things that you like, just with different techniques without oil. You can make samosas, you can do tadka, you can fry onions, you can do whatever you like without oil, but by changing techniques a little.
I have 3 questions here, ma'am. A, you said all oils are bad. Refined oils, I understand. What about organic cold press oils, such as vegetable oil, groundnut, gingerly oil, coconut oil,
Yeah. So,
ghee?
yeah. So let me go back a few steps
Sure.
in order to come back here. We need to think, what did nature or God design for us? Like, I was thinking when I moved to Oroville, actually, I moved in a small hut by the beach and a cat moved in with me the very same day.
Okay.
I had never lived with a pet. I started watching the cat. The cat was not my pet. We were just coexisting together. And I was learning from her because I saw that when the cat was sick, she knew how to heal herself. She knew that she had to fast. She knew that she had to clean her stomach by eating grass. She knew exactly what to do. I said, how can it be that animals know what to do when they are sick, but we don't? But we do know what to do. We're just not listening to our body. I realized that. So then I started thinking, what are we really supposed to eat? And I noticed that there are 3 kinds of animals: herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. And each of them have totally different digestive systems. I started thinking, what are we? Because we've been told we are omnivores all our lives. I grew up as a vegetarian, and because I was a vegetarian, I used to consume a lot of milk because I was always interested in health. I thought milk is the perfect food, and I used to have 3 glasses of milk a day plus some curd, some buttermilk, sometimes paneer or cheese. That time it was more rare, and it was at a time when milk was not easily available in India, and I lived in Bombay. And yet my parents thought it was so important and so good that they went out of their way to make sure that we got milk. And I went to a school that also provided a bottle of milk, small bottle of milk to every kid every day. So that was the upbringing, the thinking that milk is the perfect food if you don't eat anything else. And I realized that, for mothers, it can be a perfect food because one glass of milk down a kid's throat, they are full till lunchtime. But is it really the perfect food for our anatomy? And I started thinking that cows and goats, they're both herbivores, but they have totally different foods that they eat. So every animal has its niche. And what is our niche? Imagine if we were living in nature and you see fruits and vegetables, instinctively you feel like picking them.
Yes.
But if you see green fields of wheat or rice, does your mouth water?
No.
You know why? Because we can't eat it raw. I'm not a non-vegetarian and nor are you. But I know that even a non-vegetarian, a hardcore non-vegetarian, if they see a chicken walk by or a goat or a cow, will their mouth water?
No.
No. Because they can't pounce on it, they can't tear it apart, and they can't eat it whole. Like a true carnivore, not even fish. So it's only when we have been conditioned and that food is cooked and given to us on a plate in the way that we've learned to eat it that our mouth waters. We have to think what is the food for us, and we should eat it whole. And that's why oil is not good, because when we consume oil, we are taking out the fiber so you can eat so much more. There's no difference in the amount of fat in refined oil and cold pressed oil. Both are
Okay.
100% fat, right?
Hmm.
The difference is that cold press oil is more genuine, it has more nutrients, and refined oil, they use solvents, chemical solvents to extract the final fat out of the seed
Why?
so that you get all the fat out, right? It's a chemical process. And so the solvents are left in the oil, and that makes it more harmful than
But why
cold
would they
pressed oil.
refine oils? What is the reason for doing that?
Because if you do just cold
Yeah.
pressing means you pressed with
Yeah.
coal, there's still oil in there. So you're going to take it
Okay.
all out, right?
Okay.
Because
It's a process. The intention is complete extraction of oil.
complete extraction. So when we consume refined oils, we're consuming something we didn't want, which
Yeah.
is the solvents.
Yeah.
That's why it's so bad.
I had a question on oils. It is also said that oils are needed for a good joint health. They're needed for your joints.
Yeah, people really say all kinds of things, right? But the joints are not machines.
Okay.
And between the joints, there's a synovial membrane and synovial fluid. It's not made of oil, right? So, what you need to do in order to have those joints moving well is a very good blood supply. And in order to get a good blood supply, you need to have less fat so that your arteries will not be blocked, so that you have a good blood supply.
And lubrication. Therefore.
And lubrication. Yes.
Okay.
But think about it. Nature has put in so much that when there's something that you should not eat too much of, there's more fiber. How much sugarcane can a diabetic have? What do you think?
I don't think they can.
Right. But by nature or God, they can have as much as they like.
Oh.
Because if you eat sugarcane like this, peeling it
Yes.
and this, you cannot eat more than this.
Yes.
So nature has already taken care that you will never overeat sugarcane.
So diabetics can have sugarcane?
Absolutely. But if you have sugarcane juice, then it's 3 whole sticks of sugarcane make 1 glass of juice. When we bypass the fiber, then the product becomes dangerous. When we refine something, then it becomes dangerous.
We've agreed that no kind of oil is good for consumption, be it refined or organic. Vitamin D deficiency can lead to diabetes?
Yes. Whenever you want to get rid of a problem,
Yeah.
you should remove the causes of that problem. So far, we've been taking medicines to remove symptoms of the problem.
Yeah. Correct.
But removing symptoms of the problem never rids us of the problem. But if we rid ourselves of the causes of that problem, and that's why I always teach what are the causes of diabetes. And we talked about some.
Yeah.
Number 1 is fat. Number 2 is lack of fiber. Number 3 is dairy. And dairy has a big role.
Okay.
It has fat, it has no fiber, but it also has hormones because it's the secretion of a female mammal. Now, all our hormones are orchestrated by the pituitary gland. It's a gland at the back of our brain. Remember, I was telling you that the brain sends a signal to the pancreas and all that. When one hormone goes out of balance, other hormones also go out of balance. That's why many people get hormonal problems in bunches, like diabetes and PCOD and hypothyroidism can come in a bunch, and premature puberty is another big one,
yes.
And then we can't forget that prostate enlargement, breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer. And many people think that it's because of the hormones that are being given to the animal
Yeah.
to produce more milk, and it's true.
Yeah.
But we have to recognize that it's also because the animal is producing hormones. Now,
By itself.
yes.
Okay.
Like you and I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. There is hormones in the milk. What are the hormones? Growth hormone, estrogen, progesterone, prolactin. I mean, these are the ones, oxytocin. These are always there in the milk, right?
In addition to these chemical hormones.
In addition to the hormones if they are injected, right? Dairy has also a few more things, Like, for example, diabetes is a hormonal problem. Dairy contains chemicals. Why does dairy contain chemicals? Because it takes 12 kilos of grain. I mean, if you count the life cycle of a cow, it contains 12 kilos of grain to produce 1 liter of milk, which means it contains all the chemicals in that 12 kilos of grain in the milk. Now, the ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, and it can be found on Google, ICMR study on pesticides in milk. They did a study for 7 years, 50,000 samples from all over India. And they were checking pesticide called HCH, and they found that there is 570 times the permissible levels of
Ooh.
pesticide in milk.
My God.
And if you see,
Why? What?
because the cow has consumed all that pesticide and then producing the milk. And if cows only ate plants with chemicals, it's one thing, but they are actually feeding on garbage dumps. So there's another
Absolutely.
film that you can find on YouTube called The Plastic Cow, which talks about how the cows, their stomachs get clogged with plastic, and how there's PCBs even in the milk,
What is PCB?
the breakdown of plastic.
Okay.
So studies have been done on milk all over India, and there's PCBs in the milk. And then Amir Khan, he has that program
Satyamev Jayate.
Satyameva Jayate, and in Satyameva Jayate on organic farming. It's a very beautiful program. There he talks about how mother's milk has so many pesticides in it.
My God.
Because mothers are also consuming, like cows, food with pesticides,
yeah.
right?
Oh.
So, how dangerous our world has become
yeah.
today.
And we don't even know what is organic anymore. I mean, they say even in organic farming, there are organic pesticides that are used.
But that's not quite true.
Okay.
I mean, yes, like they may spray some neem oil or they may spray some chili powder on plants, but in general, see, pesticides to plants are like antibiotics to humans. If the soil is very rich and nourishing, the plants will be so healthy they don't need pesticides. Remember that whole forests grow without a single pesticide.
Yes.
So plants can grow without pesticides.
Yeah.
It's we who are using pesticides. And the reason we're using them is that we're growing plants like we're doing monoculture. One big area of just one plant. So if the pest for that plant develops, it can easily multiply because it has all its food there, right there in front of.
Yeah.
That's the difference between monoculture and a forest, which has so many different varieties.
Okay.
So if you want to grow organically, and usually organic farms are smaller farms, if you want to grow organically and have multiple different plants on the same farm, it's a little more labor intensive, but you don't need pesticides.
Ah.
And it also there's a process of making the soil more nutritious. Like nowadays we add fertilizer to the
Yeah.
soil, and fertilizer is like supplements in our body.
Correct.
It doesn't make us healthier, but it could provide nutrients which are not there. Right. But if you have really healthy soil, you don't need fertilizer. If you have a really healthy body, you don't need supplements, except for nowadays in our artificial lifestyle, we need two important supplements, vitamin B12 and vitamin D. And as you correctly said, lack of vitamin D can cause diabetes. Stress is a big one. Many times people get stressed and they end up with diabetes. And once the stress is gone, the diabetes is still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, many people have, one big stress. I had a patient, he lived in Kenya. There was a robbery in his house. They were so scared. I mean, break in and robbery and all kinds of things happen anyway in Kenya. So he moved back to the UK. When he got to UK, he had a test, he had diabetes. Diabetes never left. Stress is gone. Now, see, there's something very interesting. When we all experience emotions through hormones. When we are stressed, we have adrenaline and cortisol. When we are happy, we have serotonin and dopamine. It's the same with the animals. So when we consume any animal product, we're consuming their emotions as well, their energy.
Especially before they're getting slaughtered, there are studies to show that there is release of negative chemicals.
Always. I mean, it's not a happy time to go to a slaughterhouse, right? But even milk. Look, In order
Oh,
for
even
us to
milk.
consume milk,
Okay.
a cow has to be artificially inseminated
Correct.
because she'll only produce milk if she has a baby.
Yes.
Then, if the baby is a male, it's not given any milk. We already know that, like the colostrum, the first milk of the cow is sold, which means the baby hasn't got any. And if it's a female, also she'll remain hungry.
Yeah.
We've seen those calves being tied up when the mother is being milked. The cow's legs are also being tied up because, I mean, she's not happy being milked by a human or milk machines, right? So, this is a huge stress for the cow who wants to feed her baby and right? But because her baby is taken away from her, they artificially inseminate her again within 2 months of delivery. So now she's pregnant and lactating at the same time, which makes 10 times more hormones in the milk. So, there are stress hormones, there are other hormones. So, I mean, if you consume animal products, you cannot escape stress. And if you remove animal products from your diet, you will find a change in the state of mind.
Yeah, completely. Along with coughs and colds going away for good, because I've experienced that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, milk is mucus forming. Ayurveda says that. Ayurveda says you shouldn't consume milk, but today's Ayurveds
Yeah.
say you
Yeah.
should have milk.
Yeah. Which was going to be my next question because, it is Jeevan Pradhan karta hai, the milk. That's what we've been grown up with. And even nowadays, you talked about modern Ayurveda, says the same thing that cow's milk is like Jeevan Pradhan karna. There are people who might say that I have my cow in my backyard or I'm consuming A2 milk.
Right.
Now, what is the problem?
We should understand that A2 milk is very good, but only for A2 calves. And we are not A2 calves, right? So, how can we consume? It's like saying, there are people who say you should have camel's milk for diabetes, and
Oh.
it's being sold as such. I mean, please give me a break. So, first, we should understand that you can't solve a problem without removing the causes of that problem. And the cause of diabetes was never lack of camel's milk. Not only does milk have hormones and chemicals, it also has antibiotics. Do you know that 80% of the antibiotics produced in the world today are fed to animals in our food chain? Because if you are like milking a cow, and any person who's milking a cow, the goal is to get as much milk as fast as possible. Always the udder is injured. Udder is injured, indurated. There's always pus in the milk. Cannot get a glass
Yeah.
of milk without
Yeah.
pus.
I
The
mean, yeah, now
question is,
since you say it,
how much
yeah.
pus?
Yeah.
I've even seen them milking cows and seeing pus and blood
Oh, God.
falling in the milk. But once you stir it up, you can't see it anymore. In order to protect the cow somewhat, antibiotics are in the food every single day, which means when you consume milk, you're consuming antibiotics, which is why we have so much, our gut microbiome isn't proper because we are
Correct.
involuntarily consuming antibiotics
Yeah.
every day. And
Gut health issues are, I think, the topmost issues these days with people. Every individual that I know either has constipation, piles, acidity, or some digestive disorder.
correct.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it's possibly because excessive consumption
And
of
gut
dairy.
is our second brain.
Correct.
So gut controls our state of mind.
What if I mean this could be a common question. I only take 2 spoons of milk in my tea and coffee.
Yes, thank you for that question. Hormones are not quantified. Hormones are energy. So even if you have a little, you will feel it. When I was young, I woke up every morning with fear or anxiety. I remember that. But when it went away, I didn't realize it. And I once traveled to Spain, and before my conference, like overnight travel, land in Spain, very hungry. The only thing there was is all kinds of salads and things with cold cuts, and I'm vegetarian. And so the only thing I could find for a vegetarian was French fries. So I was hungry. So I ordered French fries, and it came with ketchup and mayonnaise on top. Okay. I ate it. I went to sleep. I woke up. That anxiety came back that I had
Oh.
experienced my entire life. And when it went away, I didn't realize. But when it came back, I realized that, wow, I didn't have it all this time. And how did this come back? Then one of my patients told me that she had cut out dairy. And she said, the biggest change is in my state of mind. I said, now you tell me what you have experienced. Then I started seeing it in other patients as well.
That also happens during meditation. At least
Okay.
I can experience that because that agitation, no? I mean, I would even go to the extent of saying onions and garlics because all of them are supposed to be rajasic, anxiety causing, aggressive foods. I think the same thing holds true with milk. I don't feel like my gut is cleaned, A. Number two, I feel like there are blocks during the meditation process. It's not very easy to transcend. So, I mean, I understand the sensitivity,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
this.
yeah.
We've talked about the five causes of
No,
diabetes.
there's two more.
Yeah.
One is lack of exercise,
Yeah.
right? And also lack of rest. Because if you don't have enough rest, you can't heal. You heal only during rest.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough exercise, you can't get rid of those calories, right? And tea, coffee, colas, alcohol, sugar, all of these are stimulants.
Correct.
They can also raise blood sugar and blood pressure. So we have to, all of these are causes of diabetes that if we eliminate, we have a very high chance of getting rid of diabetes.
Reverse diabetes in 21 days just through diet. To attend this residential program, please click on the link in the description.
One of the complications of diabetes, you talked about hypertension, and even the statistics of hypertension are not very great. I mean, heart diseases in general, the single largest cause of death in the world. I had a cousin of mine, ma'am, at the age of 36, gets a heart attack on the day of his birthday because parties and then falls off and dead.
Oh,
First cousin.
when?
It's been a while. I think it's been about 10, 12 years.
Okay.
But just at the age of 36 is left with a widow who's 32 years and has single-handedly brought two kids up. But even the Bollywood celebrities, the South celebrities who are getting heart attacks, and they're in great shapes. They're gymming, they're eating good, they're eating healthy, which means that the onset of heart diseases is also quite early
Rising.
than it what used to be. So A, where is the problem? And B, how can it be cured? Through diet.
So number one problem is fat.
Yeah.
There, right? And people don't realize how much fat they're eating just because it's in everything.
Okay.
People are cooking with fat, right? People think that meat and eggs and milk is
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
So did we at one time, at least milk, right?
What is
So
the problem with eggs?
eggs has one of the highest packages of cholesterol possible. But eggs is a story very similar to milk, that chicken is made to lay 250 eggs a year so that it can be productive in the egg industry today. But a normal bird would not lay more than 25. That's because some of them will be broken on the way and only some will hatch and so on. What will a chicken do with 250 eggs? So making them lay those eggs at that rate causes their whole cloaca to prolapse and causes so much problem, and hormones are given and all kinds of manipulations are done, and that energy comes back to us. But eggs are one of the highest packages of cholesterol in the world. And only animals produce cholesterol. So we produce cholesterol, and we even need cholesterol. Like your brain cannot function without cholesterol, your body cannot function without cholesterol. There are people who are so overtreated with cholesterol, their cholesterol is low and they're not functioning well. So cholesterol should be good, but why do people have high cholesterol? Only because they're taking cholesterol from outside, either through milk or eggs or meat. Now, that isn't the entire picture, because the amount of cholesterol in the bloodstream is anyway not the entire picture, because the cholesterol is lining the arteries, remember?
Yes.
That's not measured when you take a sample of blood. That means you can have a lot of cholesterol in the arteries and less in the blood, or you can have a lot of cholesterol in the blood but your arteries could be clear.
If I have high cholesterol, that doesn't mean that I have a weak heart.
Correct. See, when you have high cholesterol,
Which I do
there are
actually.
people who have high cholesterol.
I do have high cholesterol, and you can see my lifestyle, and I'm always shocked as to why I may have high cholesterol, but all the indicators are fine.
See, you may have grown up on dairy just like me.
I don't consume any dairy though.
But did you consume
As a
before?
child, yeah.
Okay. So how many years have you not consumed dairy?
7 years?
7 years.
Yeah.
So I would say that even after 7 years of my not consuming dairy, my cholesterol was high.
Okay.
Because this is a cholesterol that we have stored over years in our arteries. And now that we're not consuming dairy, we are releasing that cholesterol from our arteries
Bit by
and
bit.
it's coming out. Which means that at the same time, our blood pressure should be going down. Because blood pressure, if your arteries are blocked, the blood pressure is high. If your arteries are blocked and your blood cholesterol is normal, it doesn't mean anything because you can still get a heart attack. Whereas if your cholesterol is high, but your arteries are not blocked and your blood pressure is normal, the chances are you will not get a heart attack because your arteries are not blocked.
Okay, so high cholesterol is not an indicator
Not
for
an indicator.
a bad heart. Okay.
It's not a good indicator. It's an
okay.
indicator, but it's not a good indicator.
Okay. So, ma'am, in my case, high cholesterol, low BP.
Correct.
Maybe because of the sadhana that's.
Because you were consuming dairy, you have collected cholesterol. Now you're releasing the cholesterol, so your cholesterol is high. But because you're releasing it, your blood pressure remains low.
Ah, okay.
And if you took the next step,
Yeah.
which is cut out oil,
Yeah.
then even better.
You talked about techniques wherein you can cook without the use of oil. Can you please tell us about those techniques?
Yes. Usually we start cooking with either tempering if we're cooking Indian food, or frying onions or garlic if we're using those things, or some other way. So let's say tempering. Did you know that tempering can be done on a dry, thick pan? I mean, you just need a pot or a pan that is relatively thick so that things don't burn. You put it on a low flame and then you put in your tempering ingredients according to their size, one by one, and mustard seeds will even pop without any oil because they contain oil inside them, right? You will get the same flavor of tempering, and actually it can even become faster. Like me, for example, I do my tempering and put it in a bottle for a whole few months at one shot because I'm not using oil. And if I'm using the same kind of tempering every day, then I just need to do it once, put it in a bottle, and then I just need to use that, right? But I have a friend, she cooks more elaborately than me. So what she's done is she's dry roasted all the different spices and put them in bottles. So when she's ready to cook, she can just put in spices like this and it's ready. So suppose you are making a dry sabzi. Then you take the vegetable, wash it, never peel it. Remember that we want to keep all the fiber plus the maximum nutrients are just under the skin. So if we peel, they're gone. Nutrients are the spare parts for healing. So we can't let the fiber go, we can't let the nutrients go. So you take a vegetable, wash it and chop it and steam it. When you steam it, it's cooked in 5 minutes and it doesn't overcook. Then you take that steamed vegetable and add it to your tadka. Now you add an oil replacer. And the oil replacer for Indian cooking could be grated coconut or roasted crushed peanuts or roasted crushed sesame. And all of these taste better than oil. If you taste oil, it anyway doesn't taste good. But these have nutrients, they have fiber, plus they taste good, and they give that flavor of oil to your food. And then you add your paste, the ginger chili paste or ginger garlic paste or whatever you want, and it's done. Now, if you're going to make a gravy vegetable or if you want to start with frying onions and garlic, you can just you heat your pan, you chop the onions and you sprinkle a little bit of salt so they lose water. And then you put them in the pan and fry them till they're brown. You haven't used any oil. And, I've seen some people, they don't want to do this. So what they do is they take all their onions for the whole week and put them in the oven and roast them with the skin on and put it in the fridge so that whenever they want to use an onion, they just take one of those out, take out the outer skin, chop it and put it in their thing. So there are different ways in which you can cook very flavorful food without using a drop of oil. Or for example, we make rotis, right? And many people like to use ghee on their roti or sometimes oil in the dough.
Or butter.
Okay. If you made the roti without any of that, it could become a bit hard, especially if you have to take it to work. But you know what the solution is? First, we have to remember that grain is not our food.
So grain is not our food.
Yeah, because wheat and rice, when we see them in the fields, our mouth doesn't water.
Okay, so that's the litmus test. Our mouth should water.
It should be instinctively attractive.
Okay.
So what we want to do is reduce the grain. Now you can make the same roti by taking the grain flour, whatever flour. It could be wheat flour, it could be millet flour. If it's millet flour, it's always better to roast the millet flour and then use it. And then instead of adding the water, you add 1 cup of steamed pureed vegetable. You could start with potatoes or sweet potatoes. It could be beetroot. It could be spinach. It could be anything that you just lightly cooked or steamed. Spinach, you don't need to steam. You just lightly cook and blend. 1 cup of vegetable, 1 cup of the flour. You make the atta. You can even make fulkas out of that. And they will be soft because of the vegetable.
Okay.
and nutritional also,
Hmm,
right? So we can improve our nourishment. Like, for example, I make dosas. I want to use everything whole. So I'm using whole red rice, unpolished red rice, unpolished black urad dal. And remember, the rice can be replaced with millets. And of course, dal can be replaced with moong dal also. So you grind it as you would usually, but use less water and make it really thick. And then once it ferments, instead of adding water, I add vegetables. Like I grate bottle gourd or pumpkin, or I just blend in tomatoes, or I blend in ridge gourd, whatever I feel like. And that makes the base of my dosa. And sometimes I don't even just make dosa, I make it into tomato onion uttapam. So I've added even more vegetables on top. Actually, it tastes better.
I'd like to know from you a detailed, not just me, I think the viewers would want to know this, a detailed menu plan for curing or reversing diabetes.
Okay, so it's not a very detailed plan. It's a general plan because I believe that we have to learn to listen to our body.
Correct.
So if you like tomatoes and I like cucumbers, it means you need the nutrients of tomatoes and I need the nutrients of cucumbers.
Correct.
So we cannot flip.
But the question is, I'm not sensitive enough yet. I can't listen to my body yet. My system is too dense
You
at the
are
moment.
very sensitive because you know what you like.
Okay.
See, one way to know more
Yeah.
about what you like is to cook for yourself.
Correct.
I practice that.
Okay.
So, when you wake up in the morning, we haven't drunk much all night. So, best is to rehydrate. Actually, most people dehydrate because tea and coffee is dehydrating. So, we are going to take out the tea and coffee and instead herbal infusion. And the herbal infusion can also be picked according to what you like. Like if you like tulsi infusion or ginger or haldi or whatever, you can pick and match and mix whatever you like. Or you can just have, like me, I don't even boil water. I take the water and just squeeze lime juice in it. And that's vitamin C, you know. And that's because I like that. It's good for me, right? I have to say that I almost never get sick, not even with colds or coughs or anything. And I don't take any medicine ever, ever,
And you have
ever.
no wrinkles on your skin. I was just noticing that she has such lovely
I
skin.
can't say that completely,
do.
but anyway.
For your age, I mean, but
Yeah.
you have very good skin. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And you'd rehydrate. Then you could do your yoga, your exercise, meditation, whatever you like. And only when you're hungry should you think about breakfast.
Okay. Only when you're hungry.
Yeah, because we shouldn't eat when we're not hungry, right? 2 rules: eat when hungry, drink when thirsty. And the corollary: don't eat when you're not hungry. So, whenever you get hungry, the first meal should be green smoothie and fruit, ideally. Now, if you just don't like it or it doesn't suit you, then you could have only fruit. But there's a huge difference between fruit and green smoothie because this handful of leaves blends down into this much, not even a tablespoon or two, but it gives so much nourishment that in our team, everyone has green smoothie in the morning. They don't want to go without a green smoothie. Okay, so that's breakfast.
Can you give us a recipe of
Yeah,
a green smoothie?
the recipe is on our website, but the recipe is a handful of green leaves put in the blender.
Any particular green leaf?
No, you should rotate the green leaves.
Okay.
Like wherever you live, whatever green leaves you get. So you can use spinach and methi. Methi sounds so weird and it tastes so
Really?
good. You can use pan leaves, you can use dill, you can use coriander if you want, you can use curry leaves, spinach, you can use amaranth, you can use a mint, you can use ajwain leaves, you can use what you want.
Neem
And it's-
leaves?
Well, I haven't gone that far.
Okay.
I mean, I want my smoothie to taste good, and in my mind, neem leaves is a little.
Yeah. And it's
Okay.
also laxative, so I think that could be a bit of an issue, no?
I haven't tried neem
Okay,
leaves.
okay.
But moringa is laxative. You can use a little moringa.
Drumstick leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found that, like, personally, I didn't love. But when I got drumstick leaves the first time, I tried to put so much because I thought it's so good for health. And
Yeah.
I had diarrhea, and then now I never have moringa anymore. So, but it's just personal choice. You can even use the beetroot greens Or if you have very tender carrot greens, you can use them. If you live in cold countries, you could use lettuce if you don't get others, but it would be nice to use the dark green lettuce or kale or Swiss chard. You can use
Okay.
any of those. Hmm?
And blend it and then put what?
No, you put the green leaves in the blender, then you put, like, I put frozen bananas because that makes it taste like an ice cream shake. Plus, I want to buy all my bananas organic. And so when I buy the bunch of bananas, then they all ripen at the same time. Obviously, I can't eat that many bananas. So I freeze my bananas. But when I'm in the West, for example, those big bananas, they don't ripen so fast
Hmm.
and you can buy less. So there I use frozen berries.
Okay.
So you can just put anything. If you don't have frozen fruit and you want it cold, you can put ice. Now the thing with making it cold is it just tastes like an ice cream shake.
Uh-huh.
But if you don't want ice, you don't have to put ice,
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I personally put flax seeds in my smoothie. I put any fruit I may have. I love passion fruit, but blueberries. So I put them in, or you can put in oranges, raisins. You can put in anything you like. Mangoes in mango season, strawberries in strawberry season, apples if you like, or recently I've been putting amla.
Okay.
You can and I also put lime. I just cut the lime and quarter it and put in with the skin. Just take out the seeds
The
and the
lemon with the
skin.
skin
Yeah, and
Oh.
it's very nutritious. And that lemon, it just like
explodes the taste.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like too good. So you can put what you like.
Okay, so greens, and then you put your fruit
You put
and
your
some lemon.
fruits or frozen fruit.
Yeah.
You put in another fruit,
Yeah.
any one. If you want another flavor, you could even put a bit of ginger. I know people who put a bit of turmeric. I don't put turmeric, but I do put ginger once in a while. You can put what you like, but
Okay.
basically it should be green leaves and fruit.
Okay.
And then you put a bit of water and blend it to a smoothie like ice cream milkshake consistency, and it just tastes so amazing.
Okay. So even people who are non-diabetic can have this. It's
Non-diabetic and diabetics.
okay.
Look, how much can a diabetic have of fruit? As much as they want.
Really?
Because the bananas have soluble fiber. The sugar will not go straight into the bloodstream. We talked about breakfast.
Yeah.
And then if they're hungry
What time is this?
when they're hungry, when they're
hungry.
first
Okay.
hungry,
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock
or even 7 o'clock.
in the evening.
No, morning.
Morning. Okay.
Morning. Whenever they're hungry, the first meal should be green smoothie and
Okay.
fruit. If they're hungry between breakfast and lunch, some people have to leave for work at 7.
Yeah.
So they plan their whole thing so that they're hungry by 7
Yeah.
in the morning. So they can have their green smoothie and go. Then they might get hungry between breakfast and lunch. Then they could have what we typically have for breakfast. So it could be like muesli with a plant based milk or a muesli bar. Or if it's in office or if they're at home, it could be a red rice idli or dosa or red rice poha. All should be with lots of vegetables, lots of chutney. They could have upma, but it could be millet upma because rava is polished wheat.
Okay.
Right? So just we have all these recipes on our website, whatever they like. Now, personally, I don't have any breakfast because I'm full on 1.5 or 2 glass of green smoothie till my lunch, which is usually 2 or 3.
Okay.
Then lunch, at least 1/4 should be salad. Now, at least 1/4 can make the whole meal a salad. And we often have complete meal salads like, you have lots of raw vegetables and then you have some chickpeas or some sweet potatoes or
Correct.
something. And
Sprouts.
yeah, or some quinoa
Yeah.
and some dressing, and that's a complete meal. But I'm just talking about meals that can be cooked like that.
Correct. Yeah.
And or you can put in some steamed beetroot into it or whatever, Or they could have standard Indian meal, then at least 1/4 should be salad, no more than 1/4 should be grain, and the rest should be dal and sabzi
Okay.
or whatever they like. Less grain, more raw is the goal. And then in the evening, if they're hungry, usually evening is our downfall because that's when we eat all the fatty stuff, right? So I often say that if you like, you can have sprout chaat, chole chaat, aloo chaat, sweet potato chaat because that's something nutritious. And then you add the tomatoes and carrot. You can grate carrots and cucumber, or onions if you eat them, and some chutneys. So much is raw in that, and so delicious as well. And you can make it crunchy by just adding a few roasted peanuts on top, or you could add some makhana. Then dinner could be, again, it should have at least the same formula, like at least one fourth of the meal raw, and rest could be soup or a main dish or a khichdi with lots of vegetables or whatever. Remember that if it's khichdi, then it'll be brown rice and dal with chilka, because you want to have as much fiber as you can, right?
For many people, dal with chilka could also mean heaviness and bloating.
So if it means, then we have to listen to our
Or
bodies.
Okay.
Take out the dal,
Okay.
right?
Similarly, if I'm constipated, for example, then I may even have to cut down on the raw food because raw food may tend to increase my constipation.
Unlikely. So when we have full fiber, see, stool is made of fiber plus water. The fiber holds on to the water. When you have refined foods or animal products, you can get constipated. But if you don't have any animal products, and if you have all plant-based products and whole without peeling, then you shouldn't have constipation. But if you do, then we have to look into what is the reason for that.
Okay.
I want to say that we have some fabulous dessert recipes on our
Yes.
website. And though we don't use sugar or jaggery, remember jaggery is also, because many people think jaggery, why not jaggery?
Yeah,
right?
why not jaggery?
Because the fiber is removed from the sugarcane, remember? The sugarcane can be had, but not sugarcane juice. And jaggery is dried sugarcane juice. So concentrate.
But what if I'm a healthy individual, I don't have diabetes, can I then take jaggery?
You could, and here's what I would say. When we're at home, because all of us, especially if we're healthy, we're going to eat out sometime, travel
Yeah.
here, there. So let us make sure that everything at home is whole food.
Okay.
And then when we're traveling, we have a little bit here and there. And to tell you the truth, when you make the desserts with dates and raisins, they taste much better. Or fruits or dried fruit. It really tastes better.
What about stevia? A lot of diabetic patients tend to opt for stevia and things like that.
I know, but stevia has no nutrients.
Okay. Maple syrup?
Maple syrup is devoid of fiber. So no maple syrup, no agave, no stevia, and definitely no chemical sweeteners. But dates is so perfect. And many of my diabetics who, are used to having, or non-diabetics both, are used to having a dessert every night,
Oh.
right? And it's for them so easy to just switch to, like if they can't make the dessert and have no time, some nice quality dates, you just slit it, take out the seed and put in a walnut, and it becomes a delicious sweet. We have to remember that we're the only species that makes our food less nutritious before eating.
Correct.
By refining.
Yeah. And cooking. It is said that 80% of the prana or the life energy gets destroyed when you're cooking the food.
Absolutely.
We were talking about that topic where students, they don't have time to cook food, or double income couples who don't have time to cook food. You said that if you take vegetables in their natural form without peeling, wholesome foods, they don't have much cooking time anyway. Correct? So, which also makes sense for the office goers, because as a yoga teacher, many people come to me. We do this program called the Yogic Food Program, and they say, but whatever you're saying is good, but who has the time? So, what would your answer to those individuals be?
See, I recently have a patient who has very severe kidney disease.
Okay.
I truly hope he will get better, and I've seen tremendous improvement, but it still remains to be seen. But he said, I'm willing to do anything, but I don't like vegetables and I don't have time to cook. I said that, okay, you start with green smoothie, and he did it. And he said, I love it. I will have green smoothie all day.
Okay.
Now, green smoothie literally takes 5 minutes to make, and even it takes 5 minutes to consume, or a little longer if you are going to have it very slowly. But nowhere near the time cooking takes, right? Actually, our food was meant to be raw.
Yes.
Fruit is nature's fast food.
Okay.
If we were to eat foods in their raw form, we won't have any problem.
We'd get all the protein.
We get all the nutrients we need. Every single cell has protein. DNA and RNA are protein. You can't have a cell without it. But the amount of protein in fruits or fruit juice is the same as the amount of protein in human milk. Now, human milk is what is enough for us when we're growing. Protein is a food for growth. Human baby doubles its weight in 6 months, triples its weight in 1 year. At no time in our life after that do we grow at that rate.
Yeah.
Milk is enough for that rate of growth. We never need more than that, which is why a person can be a fruitarian and get all the nutrients they need.
Wow.
And greens have even more.
So can I just live off a fruit diet and be okay and be without any deficiency?
Absolutely. But shall I tell you something? See, I usually tell people that if you're on a regular diet and if you want to go become a fruitarian, it won't be sustainable because you'll do it maybe for a week or 2 weeks and then.
I won't be able to maintain it.
So don't do something that you can't maintain. So there are steps. So the first step is whole food, plant-based and organic, if you can organic. Not everyone has the possibility, but let's do the best we can. And once you start doing that and you're aware that grain is not our food, and so we limit our grain to no more than 1/4 of the meal.
Okay.
Like 1/4 of the meal should be raw. At least so we go towards raw. No more than 1/4 should be grain so that we can, crowd out the grain. And the rest could be dal and sabzi. And basically our original Indian food was a proper diet. Now we've changed it a lot. That is the first step. Now when you do that, the grains will drop off by themselves. And this is a spiritual process. You see a difference in the state of mind and spirit.
Absolutely.
And once you're there, the cooked food drops off. That doesn't mean, like, for example, I'm not doing it purposefully. I always want to cook because I want to be able to teach people to cook also. At least that's what I feel right now.
Right.
Automatically, my grain consumption has become very little and my cooked food consumption has become very little, which doesn't mean I don't eat cooked food, but it's happened. And so slowly the third stage of health is only raw. And the fourth stage of health is only fruit. And since you're in yoga, you know that the fifth stage of health is breatharian or living on light, because people can do this with just universal, cosmic, solar, whatever energy, you can do it. But it's a different spiritual level.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah,
for
there's so many
example.
yogis who don't, I think, eat for years on end.
Yes.
Eat or drink. Yeah.
Right. But like, I'm not there.
Yeah.
I can see that my spiritual progress
Yeah.
is not there, So if our spiritual progress is not at the fruitarian level, and if we force ourselves to be fruitarian, it
Yeah.
can be good
Yeah.
because you may speed up your spiritual progress, but it may not work because you may not be able to sustain.
Sustain it. Yeah. It's also said, interestingly, ma'am, in yoga, that from the food that we know as food, you get less than 25% nourishment, and everything else is the Panch Mahabhutas, the earth, fire, wind, water, space. You get
True.
nourishment from there.
True.
So we are only, in our minds, when we talk about nourishment, it is equal to food, but that's actually not the case.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
But we're not all at that
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me, and there are lots of my patients who can do fasting better than me. Me, I think that like my goal is to be very clean diet all the time. I don't have to do that detox and all that, but I'm not at the level of long-term fasting. But it's a good level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a better level than me, right? So those who can do should definitely do.
Yeah, I think individuals who are taking the regular food, exposing yourself to nature, sunlight, I think that's massively, again, depreciating. We are not exposed to enough sunlight. And I think you mentioned it in your book as well. As an aside, what if I don't have diabetes? I'm a well-functioning individual. Do I still have to give up oils? Do I still have to give up dairy and grains, etc.?
See, here's what I would say, that we have learned to eat the wrong foods. Eating the wrong foods is like putting diesel in a car which runs on petrol. Only thing is that our body has more reserves than a car, which is why we can do wrong for a little longer and get away with it. But we are eventually going to get the problem.
Online yogic food program. As per the guidelines of Sadhguru Gurukulam, register with the link in the description. You can also call or WhatsApp us at 916366852888.
You talked about peeling the vegetables. Now, this is where it becomes problematic because I may be eating the pesticides and the chemicals. And the same thing with fruits.
True. Thank you for that question. So, that's the reason we really need to go for organic. But suppose you can't get organic. We shouldn't be under the delusion that you can peel the vegetable and the pesticide is gone. Because think about it. When your skin is dry and you put some oil on the skin, can you wash it all off?
No.
No, it
No.
goes inside.
Yeah.
So it's the same way with the food. Like if you spray the vegetables, you cannot peel off the spray. You can remove some of it, maybe, possibly, but you can't remove most. Remember that there's certain vegetables which anyway we usually don't peel, like for example tomatoes or brinjal. But anyway, it doesn't help to peel. And even if you spray pesticide at the bottom of a coconut tree, you would get pesticide
Oh.
in the water of the coconut above. So, we need to be aware that we are actually destroying our own health, and farmers who spray pesticides know this. Like they will have their own little patch where they grow food for themselves. They do
Really?
not eat the food. Oh, of course,
Oh.
they don't eat the food that they are spraying on. No, because it's, the whole world is commercial now. Everything is commercial. I often tell people that if you want to know what to eat and what not to eat, take a look at everything that's advertised and don't eat that, because it takes a lot of money to advertise and nobody's going to advertise what is already in our instincts. That's why you don't generally see advertisements for carrots and cucumbers or apples and oranges.
True.
But you definitely see advertisements for milk, lest we forget that we should be
Yeah.
having milk every day. Even medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, people are given medicines that they don't require. People are eating foods that
They-
can harm
Even
them.
chemotherapies, C-section, cesarean.
Absolutely.
I know of this individual, she had to have a normal delivery and she went in for a cesarean. Why? Because apparently, and she knew it. She said, maybe they want to make money off it, but I have no option. So doing surgeries which are not needed.
Right. And you know what? We do have an option. We have an option, and the only answer is awareness. Maximum healing takes place between 10 and 4, but you have to be asleep.
Oh, the maximum healing takes place between 10 p.m. at night until
And
4 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
Like you can, you will recognize it from your own life. Like when you have fever,
Mm.
when you have fever, your body tells you exactly what you need to do. What does your body tell you?
Rest.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have liquids.
Hmm.
Sleep, maybe.
Very good.
Yeah.
And don't eat, right?
Yeah.
Body
Yeah.
says don't
You
eat.
don't feel like eating. Yeah.
Now, mother or someone can come with some food
Yeah.
and say have little.
Yeah.
But your body is saying no. Now, who should you listen to?
Body.
Right. So then why is your body saying that? Because body is saying, if I eat, then I have to digest. Then I can't work on healing.
Ah.
So you go to bed, don't eat anything. And if you do that, the next morning you will not have fever. But in the whole day, if you do something
Yeah.
wrong, then again the fever rises
Yeah.
till the body is able to take control. But what you shouldn't do is take medicine to bring down the fever, because the body has raised the temperature. It's not the bacteria that are raising the temperature or the virus.
Okay.
The bacteria or virus invade. The body raises the temperature so that the bacteria or virus cannot multiply while it's building the antibodies. Once the antibodies are built, they will fight the bacteria or virus. Now, if before that you bring down the fever, then they'll multiply, then you need an antibiotic, then it goes on. So it's really important to listen to your body and not take medicines. Then you can get well. And if you do it again and again, you'll get confidence that your body knows how to heal almost anything and that you should minimize intervention. So if you stop eating and don't exercise, rest, when you have
Yeah.
fever, then automatically your body can heal.
Uh-huh. So we just rest. We shouldn't eat. We should take fluids.
Yeah. It's not that you shouldn't eat. You should eat only
Only
if
when
your
you
body wants.
Okay.
And
Alright.
what your body wants.
Okay.
But within the guidelines.
And don't take any medications.
Definitely not.
But
for
what if there's
fever.
body pain and there's excessive fatigue and you can't withstand the pain? Then what?
You
Brave
know,
it out?
I don't know the 100% answer to
Yeah.
that, but here's what I know.
Yeah.
Since I never take any medicine for fever, and nor did my mother give me,
Yeah.
I've never had that problem of excess body ache that I can't handle or anything like that.
It's quite like painkillers. People who need painkillers are the ones who constantly take painkillers.
Right. So it's our thoughts
Yeah.
that make us take it, rather than like, oh, I have fever, I can't bear the fever. Oh, I have pain, I can't bear the pain.
Or sleeping pills.
Either, but
Yeah.
sleeping pills maybe could be required if you can't sleep at all, because when you can't sleep at all, it really destroys your health. We should understand why the person is unable to sleep, and then work on that, because it could be an emotional, a stress, a habit, anything. One of the big reasons why people can't sleep is because our body naturally feels like sleeping when it's dark.
Correct.
But when we are at home, sometimes it's more bright at night than it is in the evening, or, you know.
Day.
So then the body gets confused that is it day or night? It's kind of like jet lag. Body doesn't know what to do.
Correct.
Then you can't get sleep.
Or even working late nights. I think that's
Or even
become such a
working
common
late
thing.
light or blue light,
Yeah.
like stimulants late
Yeah.
nights. So what you need to do is, once you've had dinner, start dimming the lights. Those people who can't sleep, if they were to go on a camping trip with
Yeah.
no lights,
Yeah.
they would probably fall asleep.
Correct.
Because they would be sleeping at the right time. Often, for me at least, if I sleep too late, I can't sleep well. But if I sleep early, I'll sleep very well.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if you don't sleep during the day, you sleep well.
Yeah, well, I never have time to sleep during the day.
True that. It's very interesting that cancer can be cured through diet. If you can give us a gist of what foods or what plant can help us reverse cancer.
See, first of all, we have to recognize that there's only something that chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery can do. Right now, you and I both have cancer cells in our body, but our healthy cells are keeping the cancer cells under control. When we do surgery, all we can do is remove those cancer cells that we can see in one lump, which doesn't mean we have removed every cancer cell. Therefore, after that, there's chemotherapy. And what chemotherapy does is kill every fast growing cell. Since cancer cells are fast growing cells, it will kill cancer cells, but it will also kill the other fast growing cells, which are red blood cells and white blood cells and skin cells and hair cells and mucous membrane cells. And so it has that effect. Now, anyway, chemotherapy, everyone knows that chemicals are carcinogens. So it's not something that's healthy that you would give to any healthy human being. It's something that is like giving 10 antibiotics at one shot to one person. I mean, your gut will be imbalanced. So, if our body force is strong, we shouldn't go in for all the treatments if we can avoid them.
They said the same thing about Steve Jobs. His cancer was so slow moving that it would have ran the course of his natural life. But it was because of the therapies that it got exacerbated and led to his early death.
So, you know what, this happens. And the other thing also can happen, that we think, let us just do natural, and that can also cause. So, we have to keep looking, watching, thinking, and doing our best. And anyway, we can't change destiny. We also have to recognize. So, we really have to do the best we can in any moment, right?
Yeah.
And then many times when people have cancer, they're told to have more protein.
Okay.
Because somehow there's an impression that more protein heals. But protein is a food for growth. Cancer is a growth. So you can have proteins, but please don't have protein isolates. Because, nature.
What are protein isolates?
Like when you extract protein, like whey protein supplement or pea protein, that's a plant based protein supplement. But even that would not be recommended. So if you want to increase your protein intake, increase it by increasing with good foods, right? Also, I think the best foods in the world are raw foods. They give the highest nutrients, but oncologists are so scared of bacteria and they think that raw foods have bacteria on them, and when you cook them the bacteria dies, not realizing that an apple or a carrot or a cucumber can lie on the table or the counter for 3-4 days without spoiling, but the minute you cook any of them, the minute you cook a vegetable or a fruit and you leave it out, it will spoil because the bacteria are multiplying. So are there more bacteria in cooked food or in raw food? Because raw food, the vegetables or fruit have a protective layer which don't let bacteria in. So if you wanted to be very careful, you could just wash with drinking water and you would be safe. But that's not the impression that people have. So we have to be aware of these things. And once we're aware, we have to remove the causes of the cancer. So we have to think in each and every case, what could be the cause of cancer? It's very well known fact that old resentments and emotions can build cancer cells. Like when we lose our immunity to the cancer cells that are already in our body, And that happens, when do we lose our immunity? You know, you might have noticed that when something happens and you get very stressed, you can come down with some cold or fever the next day just
Correct.
because your body loses its stamina, right? So it's the same with cancer, but long standing resentment or anger or things that we haven't worked on. And almost everyone has this. I mean, I would say everyone has this, right?
Hmm.
We all are like living in the past or reacting from the past. And it really requires a lot of thinking and counseling, maybe, or whatever kind of therapy you do to overcome those things.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can't even overcome them because they're right around the corner
Yeah.
in your house. It's still happening, and it's really hard to go beyond that,
Hmm.
right? So, and then of course, food. And cancer cells survive in less oxygen than normal cells. So when we are blocking our arteries, remember I told you that fat is one of the biggest causes of so many diseases. When we're blocking our arteries, we are also inviting cancer.
Hmm.
Wherever we get, like our body tells us when we have blocked something, we get pain, like less oxygen to the heart, angina, and then heart attack. Less oxygen to the head, headache or migraines or stroke.
Hmm.
Less oxygen to the joints, joint pains. Less oxygen to the back pain. Less oxygen to internal organs, cancers.
Hmm.
So we have to see how can we improve the oxygenation, which is all the same factors as high blood pressure. And then normal cells can survive in an alkaline medium. Our body is alkaline. But cancer cells thrive in even more acidic medium. So we are creating acidity in our body. And how do we create acidity? Tea, coffee, colas, sugar, alcohol, vinegar, all the preservatives are acids because bacteria don't survive with acid.
Can you please elaborate on why tea and coffee is bad? A, it's
Tea and
acidic.
coffee is acidic. Tea and coffee also leaches calcium out of the bones. The acid, has to be neutralized. It leaches calcium and magnesium out of the bones. So that's another reason. And it's also strong, so it dehydrates our body. Like normally, our body's made with a lot of water, but
Yeah.
when we drink tea and coffee and it's strong, it takes water out of the tissues in order to make everything isotonic. Everything that we put in our body has to be made isotonic. So another big myth that people have is don't drink water with meals.
Yeah.
Remember that all the animals eat and then drink, automatic,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we don't.
Yeah.
And what's worse is that we're cooking our food.
Yeah.
If you were eating raw food, perhaps you don't need to drink with when you eat.
Correct.
But if you eat cooked food, it's more solid.
It's dehydrating.
Yeah, there's less, the water has been taken out.
Yeah.
So you need to bring that much water. So the more oily food or dry food like bread or rice that you eat, the more water you need. But people have this idea that you don't need water. So I want to say that you always have to listen to your body.
Okay.
Like if your body says I'm thirsty, drink.
Okay.
Now many people don't even know when they're thirsty.
Yeah.
And medicines are acid, and
The water we drink?
chemicals, yeah, unfortunately, because it's chlorinated.
How do we prevent that?
So a good RO filter would change that.
Okay.
And then you could you can make all your water remineralize before drinking by, say, you squeeze in lemon juice.
Okay.
Lemon sounds acidic, but it's alkaline in our body because of potassium. All the fruits are the most alkaline, and then the vegetables. So we could
Including
have,
lemon, right? Lemon also becomes
yeah,
alkaline. Yeah.
lemon is a fruit. So if we could eat more fruits and more vegetables, and we could eat more raw to make our body more alkaline. So these are some of the things we could
And
do.
not have non-vegetarian food because it is very acidic.
Of course, all protein breaks down into amino acids,
Ah.
and therefore it's acidic.
Okay.
Yes.
So all forms of protein actually. Even the vegetarian sources of
Yes,
protein
yes.
can.
all the seeds have protein more because they have to grow.
Yeah.
Protein is a fruit for growth.
Yeah.
So the wheat and the rice and the seeds that we eat, these are all high in protein, higher in protein.
Okay. And if we want a specific plan to do with any of these lifestyle diseases, then we come to you. I have a rapid fire segment for you. Okay. What are the other complications that a disease like diabetes can give me?
So as I said, the threatening ones are eye complications and
Hypertension?
hypertension. I mean, the cause of hypertension and diabetes is the same.
Okay.
Fat, lack of fiber, lack of exercise, lack of rest, stress, tea, coffee, colas. And the difference is hypertension can be because of lack of vitamin B12, and diabetes is lack of vitamin D. And vitamin D comes from our exposure to the sun. Vitamin D is actually a hormone which is produced by the action of the sun on the skin. Vitamin B12, on the other hand, is only produced by bacteria. And because we're leading super hygienic lives, drinking zero B water, and municipal water is chlorinated, so it's already zero B, right?
Oh, what is zero B?
Zero bacteria.
Okay.
Like no bacteria in the water, like when we buy bottled water or when we have municipal water or RO water or filtered water, we have no bacteria, right? Which is not that great because we're not building our
Yeah.
immunity always. But anyway, we are doing this. So we don't get enough vitamin B12, and the levels of vitamin B12 have dropped considerably since the mobile phones and mobile phone towers and microwaves are being used. Don't know what exactly is happening, but definitely the levels are coming down because I've been testing before
Okay.
and now, and I test all populations,
Okay.
like vegetarians, non-vegetarians, vegans, everyone, and everyone has low deficiencies of B12 and D.
Okay.
Meat and milk are full of bacteria and they digest in the stomach, and the stomach has intrinsic factor which absorbs the vitamin B12. Sometimes because of the acidity produced by the meat and milk, that intrinsic factor doesn't work. So vegans don't have B12 because they're not consuming enough bacteria. Non-vegetarians and vegetarians don't have enough B12 because their intrinsic factor doesn't work, and so they may even need B12 injections.
Oh.
So across the board, everyone has B12 deficiency, which has been increased after mobile phones and mobile phone towers and microwaves.
What are the foods that we can take to increase our B12 or maintain our B12 levels?
You could take fermented foods of any kind, like fermented vegetables or plant-based yogurt and so on. But either way, that's not enough. Like, even in Tamil Nadu, they take fermented rice, leftover rice, they ferment and have it. But it's not enough. Everyone's still getting B12 deficiency.
Okay. What is the answer?
Supplements. So we may have to take B12 supplements because nowadays, in our current modern life, we have to resort to modern means.
Okay.
So that's the answer for both vitamin B12 and D.
Okay. What should my frequency of meals be if I have to reverse a particular disease?
Well, fasting is a great way to reverse diseases. So really it depends on your whole body and what you need and how you can do things. So that would be, I'd be able to tell an individual during a consultation.
What about preventing a disease? What should the frequency of the meals be for an individual to prevent a disease?
No more than 5 meals a day. I think that intermittent fasting is a great thing because intermittent fasting means eat only within an 8-hour period. And whether you say 8 or 10 hours, if we don't eat before sunrise, like if we were living in nature, we can't eat before sunrise and we can't eat after sunset. That's already intermittent fasting. So that's what nature expected us to do. And if we eat and live the way nature expects, we'll be well.
Okay. Okay, one secret to preventing diabetes.
I think eat and live the way nature expected us always, and we can prevent not just diabetes but any disease,
One best vegan source of calcium?
Calcium is a mineral. It comes from the ground, and most things that grow from the ground have calcium. So how do cows have calcium? How does milk have calcium? Because cows eat grass. But sesame has 10 times more calcium than cow's milk, and greens have calcium, beans have calcium, nuts and seeds have calcium too. So, calcium, there's no dietary deficiency of calcium known in the world. The reason people have osteoporosis is because they are eating acid foods which are leaching calcium out of the bone.
Okay.
But otherwise, there's no known dietary deficiency of calcium in the world.
Up till what age should I consume cow's milk, if at all I should?
You should never consume cow's
Even a
milk.
child?
Even a child. Like, one of the causes of type 1 diabetes is cow's milk given at a too early an age. So nobody should consume cow's milk at all. Cow's milk is for calves just like human milk is for humans.
Okay. Can type 1 diabetes be reversed?
Not always. It really depends on the cause. Autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes can be reversed or can be controlled. Most of my patients, their insulin dosage has come down considerably, but whether it's completely reversed, I wouldn't say.
Okay. I want to know the interplay between medicine and diet because, as I understand, even for these lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, thyroid, cancer, etc., I may be on medications and then I'm taking a good diet plan. Right? I can't leave off my medications just yet. So, how should I proceed with reducing my dosage of medicine and the diet?
So, if you have diabetes or hypertension, you can keep checking. If you have hypothyroidism, you can check with tests, blood tests. But diabetes and hypertension, you can check at home. So, it depends on the disease, but it should be checked and reduced, and ideally reduced by a doctor who believes in this.
Okay. You said that application of sunscreen reduces the absorption of vitamin D. Do you think sunscreen and usage of sunscreen is overhyped and we should not use sunscreen?
Absolutely.
We should not use
never
sunscreen?
use sunscreen.
Very surprising because dermatologists always say that even when you're at home, the rays of that's what a dermatologist told me, that even when you're working, the infrared rays that you get from
harmful.
screens are harmful and they can tan you or some such thing. And you should even apply sunscreen when you're at home.
Well, if our goal is only not to get tanned, it's another story. But if our goal is overall health, then sunscreens can be carcinogenic. So, remember that sunscreens are a bunch of chemicals and whatever you put on your body gets absorbed. So, I would say don't put anything on your body that you would be scared to put in your mouth.
Wow. So many. Top 3 cooking tips that you can give us for a healthy lifestyle.
Don't cook if you can avoid it. Cook at lowest temperatures and steam instead of pressure cooking or doing anything else because steaming cooks really fast, but it never is above 100 degrees.
Healthy options when it comes to frying foods.
I can't say frying is healthy. Frying is cooking at very high temperatures. The options are cooking in an oven or an air fryer, and those are high temperatures too. So those are just healthier than frying because you cut out the fat, but it's not a great way of cooking.
Okay. You are a pioneer of veganism. I had a podcast with one of the guests, and she told me that you have been the torchbearer or the trailblazer of veganism in India. You've brought or made veganism vogue in India. We see so many celebrities turning to veganism, right? I think Virat Kohli not recently, I think some time back mentioned that in one of the tours, he was on a high protein diet. I'm assuming he was having non-veg. And even though he was having calcium and magnesium supplements, his stomach was taking the calcium from his bones because he was on a high protein diet. And that made him switch to veganism and left, non-vegetarian completely. My question is that it's harder said than done. Because firstly, I don't think enough people are convinced that you should not be having non-vegetarian foods. In a minute, if you had to convince them on why they should not be having non-vegetarian food, what would your answer be?
Well, I have 3 different answers depending on the person. So I would listen to the person and figure out what is their value that's dear to them. For example, I became vegan when I heard that calves are deprived of their mother's milk because I feel like, hey, if you did that to a human or any other animal, it's not acceptable. Why is it acceptable for cows? And it was only after I changed because of ethical reasons that I understood and read about the full health benefits of a plant-based diet. So if someone is interested in it if someone loves animals, I would tell them about the ethical reasons. If someone loves, wants to be healthy, I was also very health conscious. That's why I became a doctor. So if someone likes to be healthy, I could tell them about the health benefits. And if someone's interested in environment, I would tell them about the environmental benefits. But there's so many other benefits as well, the emotional benefits. So I would look at the person and then explain them what it has to do with them. But usually I wait for people to ask me because just nobody wants to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So if we can create a situation where people want to learn about it, that's what I would do if I could.
The question is that how do you know that non-vegetarian food is not meant for us health-wise, because our ancestors were hunters and gatherers?
Actually, our ancestors were gatherer hunters. So much so that if I ask my colleagues of my age who live in Europe, they would say that, when we were young, we had fish on Fridays and meat on Sundays, and that was it. When I moved from Bombay to Auroville 25 years ago, I saw that the whole area would become a slaughterhouse on Sundays. Everyone would eat meat on Sundays, but nothing at all during the week. In fact, in my area, there were no non vegetarian restaurants, also, just because it was Auroville. But now there are non vegetarian restaurants in Auroville. People are eating meat from morning to night. And I know that when I used to go to Europe to teach and I'd stay in a hotel, then usually, they'd serve continental breakfast, which would be tea, coffee, bread rolls with butter and jam, and maybe some juice, not even fruit. Like that's a continental breakfast. But now those same hotels in Europe have a whole buffet of all kinds of cold cuts, all kinds of eggs, all kinds of dairy, all kinds of cheeses, all kinds of things, and people are eating in heaps. So people have changed the way they're eating, and that's also true because of refrigeration. Like 100 years ago, if there was no refrigeration or minimal refrigeration, people couldn't eat the foods they're eating today. So in the past, we ate meat only because it was a necessity, because nothing else could be found. But today, we're eating meat out of pleasure or greed or something else, just because it's available or because we think it's healthy. And we are overeating it, and that's a problem because our body has a lot of reserves. So if you eat meat once a month or once in a few months, and it's not easy to hunt an animal. But if you eat meat once in a while, nothing will happen. Plus, remember that it was a community thing. Like one animal was killed and the whole community ate together. But today it's a daily affair. So that's dangerous.
You quoted Paul McCartney, and you said that
If slaughterhouses had windows, everyone would be vegetarian.
what happens in those slaughterhouses?
Slaughterhouses, like, just imagine if you were going to, it's like the Holocaust. What the Nazis did to human beings is what we are doing to animals in a slaughterhouse, right? So obviously you're going to see the animals screaming and blood all over the place, and it's not a happy sight. And plus, when the animals are scared to death, they pee and shit involuntarily there, and so the meat is also mixed with feces and blood and urine and everything, and it can't be clean. So if we were looking at it, we would avoid it. Now I think that's true to some extent, and I think in India, to a large extent, we're getting conditioned to it because there are chicken slaughterhouses everywhere, and yet people eat chicken. So I mean, I don't know what to say to that. But I definitely know a lot of people who saw this and turned vegan.
Okay. Why did you take up the cause of veganism, and which also led to your foundation, SHARAN? Can you tell me the vision and what inspired you?
I mean, I became a doctor to reduce suffering, and when I saw the intense suffering in the dairy industry, I knew I had to become vegan. But when I became vegan, I started seeing the articles everywhere about why milk is bad for you. I mean, these were articles I never saw before, but they were all over the place. And I know that when we do our 21-day retreat and we're in the library and there's the newspaper, almost in every retreat, somebody picks up the newspaper and says, look, it's saying that milk is bad. But the rest of the world isn't reading that because, we only see what we already know.
Correct.
Kind of.
And you want to believe.
Yeah, and what you want to believe. So when I became vegan, I was thinking, okay, where am I going to get my calcium and protein? Kind of at the back of my mind. And there I saw all the articles saying how osteoporosis is highest in countries with the highest consumption of dairy because milk is acidic.
Even cancer.
And even cancer, but other kinds of cancer like hormonal cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, These are common in
Countries
countries
which
with
have
the
a lot of-
highest consumption of dairy. And meat is also carcinogenic. When I started seeing all that, I said, wow, I mean, I became vegan for ethical reasons, but there are so many reasons to turn vegan. And when I started seeing the difference in my health, I said, why am I wasting time with medicines when medicines never cure, but the body always works to heal and we can get out of the way? So I started doing this.
Now, question that comes up is, I'm very inspired by this conversation, right? I want to turn vegan, but I can't. My taste buds, the mind, it dominates me. When I see the crispy fried chicken, or when I see a chicken biryani or whatever, I'm not able to stop myself from eating it.
So there are two ways to do it. One is that you can have the alternatives temporarily, initially,
Okay.
just as a transition food, because these foods are addictive. And once you get out of the addiction, they don't hold so much desire anymore. Like just today, I met someone who had done our 21-day program 1.5 years ago. And he said, I haven't had any meat since then. And I was 100% carnivore before that. I think that if you just feel like you want to eat it, then you could eat it whenever you want, like, whenever you're craving it, but eat it mindfully. Like, eat it and, after you eat it, see how your body feels and remember that. And then the next time it comes, see if you really want to eat it. Maybe yes. Then you eat it and remember how your body feels. It doesn't take too long before you stop eating it. It happens by itself.
Okay, wonderful. I cannot thank you enough, ma'am, for this beautiful conversation all the way from Pondicherry. I think since the time I read of you, I watched you, I knew that this would be a great conversation, but this surpassed my expectations. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
In case you'd like to be a part of our online and in-person yoga, diet and spiritual programs, you can join our WhatsApp group below, where we post all our upcoming programs and give free tips on health, diet and lifestyle.